Hey everyone, I'm Jason Ingersoll.
Hi, I'm Shuai. We are students at Northeastern University, and this is our project for CS 7190 AI assistant coding.
And we built DebateMeBro, an AI powered debate platform where two AI agents argue any topic in real time, where each side is required to steel man the other side's argument before rebutting. We also have three AI judges score both sides on a transparent rubric, and then users can then cast their own vote on who they think won the debate.
The idea came from a simple frustration online disclosure is broken. People strawman each other, argue in bad faith, and nobody ever engaged in the strongest version of the other side's arguments. So we wanted to show that the genuinely good faith depth looks at it.
Now, let's walk you through the app, how we built it, and what went wrong along the way, as well as how we used AI not just in the product, but also while building it.
Yeah, first of all, let me try to introduce the problem and design. Before we show the app, the core design decision that is drive everything. So most AI debaters either refuse controversial topics or produce watered down both sides have merit response. So we took the opposite approach. Our design philosophy is no topic is off limits. The premise is that bad ideas lose when they are forced to defend themselves against the strongest possible counterarguments in a structured format. The debate structure and the judging rubric are the quality control, not content moderation. So the second key decision is still manning. In every rubital, each agent is required to articulate the strongest version of the opponent's arguments before responding to it. This forced intelligent honesty. You can't attack a straw man when you have just demonstrated you understand the real arguments. And both sides get the same research. We deliberately given both agents access to all evidence, pro and con, just like real competitive debates. Both teams research the same topic. The skills is in how you use the evidence, not in having exclusive access to it.
All right, yeah, that's exactly right. So now let's actually take a look at the app itself. So you can see we have a nice landing page here with a sort of explanation of what the app is and the call to action. Um, some icons here that kind of explain the flow and how it works, but I'll give you a demo to make it more apparent. Um, First, we have a pretty nice I'll just sign in here authentication page where you can sign in or sign up. I'll go ahead and sign in here. Awesome. Um, and so as you can see here, we have a page that, or a search bar where you can type in whatever resolution for whatever debate you're interested in having the AI agents debate. For the purposes of the demo, I'm going to use this preset one about universal healthcare. And this takes us to the persona generator page, which is like the first phase before the debate starts. What we do is we have Claude Haiku takes the resolution for the debate and it generates a identity or a persona for each side of the resolution. And it doesn't just it's not just generic. It gives them a whole identity with sort of expertise, core values, and the approach that they're going to use throughout the debate. Um, so let's go ahead and start the debate here. Um, Currently, they're conducting the research consultation phase. There are two documents uploaded here in the pro side and the con side, generated using Claude's deep research tool. I would click on it and show you, but for whatever reason, either the back end or front ends, or I'm not really sure why, but when I try and open it, it basically makes the page not respond. You can't exit out of it. But it's a pretty robust research document with a bunch of citations, and the agents are going to take those and do an analysis of the sources that they have. So you can see that here. Using Claude Sonnet 4.5, they'll analyze that document as well as the opponent's document and identify where they have strong points of argumentation, as well as identify where they have some vulnerabilities. Then they'll look at the opponent's research and identify their strengths and weaknesses, and then they'll do source conflicts where they compare and contrast the citations across both of them to determine where they might be conflicts and maybe avoid using those citations. Then they will essentially anticipate what the opponent's debate strategy and argumentation is going to be, and preemptively come up with some lines of argumentation to refute those before they even bring them up. Lastly, we have the values framing, where it frames it according to the values that they have to frame the debate, and then they will strategically make a citation plan to bring in the sources that they have at their disposal in order to support their arguments. Now, I'm going to... It's frustrating. For whatever reason, when we run for the first time, you don't have the ability to go back to a stage. Here we go. Now it's ready. So this is the opening arguments that each side came up with. As you can see, they have links to real live sources based on that research document that were provided. They're going to go through all the arguments that they have, and for both sides. The next phase is somewhat similar to that research consultation phase. They're going to essentially read their opening arguments and then identify the opponent's strongest point and their weakest point, and then identify things that they missed, what they got wrong, and then formulate a rebuttal strategy that they're going to employ in the next phase of the debate. And as you can see, that does that for both. I'm going to hit continue here, and you can see the API call is working right now on this debate. Looks like this side's pretty much done. But if we wanted to, we could click these, and then it would take us right to the page. As soon as this is done, I'll go to the evaluation. Usually it works a little bit faster than this, but it's been slower since we moved on to Vercel and Render. I opted for the free version, so I'm assuming that might be why it's slowing it down. Alright, the rebuttal just got completed. After the evaluation stage, we can go back and view that, but for the purposes of this demo, we're just going to let this roll. And this evaluation phase is also similar to the previous one, where they evaluate the opponent's rebuttal and then prepare for their closing statements. And something to note here is just the way that we went about this took a lot of thoughtful planning in terms of the system prompting that we're going to use and how to make this as fair and as honest as possible. The whole idea behind this is that we want the debate to be, we want them actually contending with each other's arguments rather than making misrepresentations of the other side and making logical fallacies to avoid uncomfortable points that they don't want to address. So now we're ready. We're going to hit continue. They're wrapping up with their closing statements here. We're going to go pro first, and the con one is going to do theirs. Almost done here, wrapping up quickly. And if we want to get a reminder of who the personas are, we can drop this down here and here. We can also navigate to any of these previous areas. And then now here we have a judge session where they're going to evaluate all the different stages of the debate and then score them based on 3 components: logic, evidence, and engagement. And they're going to score them in different categories within those domains. So each judge is focusing on a specific aspect of the previous debate. You can see here how they've scored them. They seem to score in favor of the pro side. The judge verdict appears here. Pro wins. All 3 judges agreed. Pro edges out con on logical grounds due to stronger premise support from systematic reviews and more rigorous evidence base, despite both sides presenting sophisticated arguments with some logical flaws. You can read that at your own leisure, but for each specific judge, we can see more detailed view of how they arrived at those decisions. Identifying their strong points and then the weak points for both. And then here's like the full reasoning for each and how they arrived at these scores and their sort of score breakdown that determines the points that they score. And we can do the same for each of these 3 judges here. And if we disagree, we can cast our own vote. I think that we're having some issues at the back end, but let's say con ones, yeah, failed to fetch. But that's okay. So there's one more thing that I wanted to show you. Maybe 2 more things. So we also have a feature that lets you browse previous debates. So anytime a user does a debate, it will appear on this page. So far, this is the only one that we have, but this allows us to save a lot of API tokens because, rather than starting a debate from scratch, a user can, do their own debate and then view it from here. So I'll show you what doing their own debate looks like. So I'm going to do this topic because I already have the sources cultivated, but there's a bug here. For whatever reason, it doesn't allow spaces on that part, but should the U.S. abolish the Federal Reserve? And here we can provide the resolution that we want each side to debate. We can also add any additional framing or context to either side, but for now I'm just going to skip that. We're going to move on to the Analyze Topic section. And what it does here is we're doing an API call to generate, so basically it comes up with a basic framework, a more robust position for each side. These are some sort of basic lines of argumentation off of the resolution without any, obviously these would be different if we added a little bit of context. And we can also add more here. So if the user wants to add some more stuff, they can. But what we do here is we generate a research prompt that the user can then take and pass into one of their other AI web services like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. They all have their own research feature. You can copy this to the clipboard, and then we would just take it over here and do the deep research function. I already did it with for this specific resolution, so I'm just going to come over here to my notes and just copy that in. I've done my research. So we have the ability to upload a file, which I'm actually going to do that. So for the pro side, boom, I just uploaded a text file. Did that work? Doesn't look like that worked, but that's okay. We're just going to provide the text and just copy it over. Ideally, this would be better if you had a markdown file, because that preserves a lot of the styling that we would need rather than a big wall of text. Or unfortunately, Gemini doesn't give you a markdown file. It researches much faster than Claude, but Claude does a better job if it doesn't time out, which has happened a few times. And then I'm going to paste the con one here as well. I'm going to upload both of those, and then we're going to hit start debate. And then it'll just go through that same process that I just demonstrated to you with the universal healthcare. Let's see. Yep, nice. So we have these two characters here about to debate if we should have the Federal Reserve, and then it's just going to go through that same process. But yeah, this allows us to conduct debates from both preset topics and then user determined ones. Hopefully in the future we can get it to where it does the research itself in-house, but that's obviously requires another API key, and the deep research versions are more expensive. And then, like I said, you can look at my debates, and then you can just browse any debate done by anybody. As soon as that other debate is done, we'll be able to go back and view it again. And now we can just go between whatever phase we're interested in. Let me show you what these look like. As you can see, we have all these hyperlinks, and we can jump to them. And now we know that it does an actual verified job of looking at real sources with real data to support their claims. Awesome. Ready, set, go.
Yeah, thanks for Jason have a very detailed demo, and now we are trying to look at the architecture. So we're trying to use in 3-layer architecture. The front end is Next.js and Tailwind CSS for styling, and Z stand for state management. The debate view page is over 1,500 lines of TypeScript, and in managing the SSE connection, Flask gating, and the personal reviews. The stand gives us a single store that the SSE handler writes to directly, and React components subscribes to slice using use shell. The backend is fast API with non-graph for orchestration. We also have like an endpoint testing Swagger for those backend API. And there is a key file that is graph.py. And this defines the debate as a state machine with 10 nodes. Non-graph managing the transitions. Research results flows from the opening pro, then opening con, and then evaluation openings, and then the evaluation runs pro and cons concurrently. The streaming happens through the stream.py. So this file handles both cache reply and live long graph streaming through a single SSE endpoint. It checks the cache first. If the debate already exists, it reply instead at 0 cost. If not, It runs the full long-chain pipeline that stream events in the real time. On the intelligence layer, we use two tiers of cloud, like the Haiku for the fast, cheap operations, the topic noises, and the persona generation. Sonnet, on the other hand, for the debate agent and judges where quality matters most. We also implement anthropic prompt caching since same evidence bundle is referenced across multiple LLM calls in a single debate. So caching reduced repeat input token cost significantly. Another thing I want to talk about is AI used, AI tool used in our development process. As you can see here, the first thing we want to mention is the wind suffer with cassette. Our primary development IDE, we use it as a pair programming throughout the entire project. Although before we try to use anti-gravity, the token just went out very quick. So later on, we try to use in the wind surf because the price is more reasonable. As you can see, the conversation threads here where the cassette helped us build features across multiple files simultaneously. For example, the SSE streaming handler requires coordinating changes across the backend events emission in stream.py, the front end parse in the debate page, and the loose and stored definitions, the React component rendering. Cassette could hold full content across all of those files and suggest coherent changes. It's also critical for debugging. We had like very tricky bugs during the evaluation process, showed computing strategies instead of actual content. The pro evaluation was stuck. Cassette identified what long-graphed event tags could carry role information. We just need to add config tags in the role in our LLM DAO and invoke calls and read those tags in stream handler. We're also using GitHub Copilot heavily for inline code generations, especially for sync patterns, test features, and also we use it for code reviews and code merging conflicts. Copilot actually catch like a context leak bugs where those evaluation flash nodes were leaking to opponent engines. And of course, the cloud itself generates the preloaded research documents for our preset topics, like around 8 to 50 pages for sourced evidence per site. After that, I want to talk about the lessons or challenges winner. So on my end, the authentication flow had subtle issues with redirect patterns. So we need to have a safe URL validation on it return to the parameters to prevent open redirection vulnerabilities to make sure that it starts with a slash rather than double slashes. How about you, Jason? Do you have any challenges and lessons learned?
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges we had was we would each be working on separate issues in parallel according to like our Scrum process, but there were some overlapping aspects of some of those issues, and we ended up with a few different merge conflicts. So trying to figure out, how to deconflict those across the different merges and how to do recompile it without any errors was probably the biggest one, and then learning how to maybe not learning, but getting more familiar with proper development practices in terms of pulling feature from main, and then each working on separate issues that are isolated from each other. I think that was the big challenge and lesson learned, at least at the beginning, but we got pretty good at it towards the end.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads right into the team process that we had. So the way we would work is at the beginning we set up our project, our PRD using Claude Web, sort of identified all the different aspects and potential challenges that we wanted to accomplish, and then we uploaded that as well as a GitHub issues document with some of the preliminary issues that we identified that we're going to have, and we broke them up into two different sprints. The first sprint was mostly building the front end basics as well as the back end basics, so that in that second sprint, we were able to actually test that the API calls to Claude were working as we expected. Um, and then our overall process on top of that, we would essentially go to Windsurf, identify one of the issues in this document that I have up right now, tell it, hey, I want to work on issue 11, for example. And then it has a great planning feature similar to anti-gravity, where it will look at that specific issue, identify all the different files that are going to be impacted, and make a plan for how to accomplish that. It would then work and implement that, and then we could check out a branch, commit all those changes to that branch, and then our process for pull reviews, we would actually integrate another AI tool, GitHub Copilot, to do a preliminary pull review, looking at our code and suggesting different edits, and then it would make a secondary feature on top of that we then merge to that feature, and then we do one final pull review with our partner before we merge that to the main branch. And this kind of gave us a great speed up in terms of our pull review process. But that was essentially our. Another thing I think we should talk about real quick is the different agent rules that we had set up. If my app wants to open. Eesh. Come on. One of the advantages of these IDE present agentic programming tools is that they allow you to set certain rules that can give it context across all your workspaces. So we set up a do's and don'ts folder with things that we wanted to do throughout the process. Give it one that gives it the context and which documents to reference throughout, like our PRD and the GitHub issues file. And then also the Scrum workflow that we utilized in this process. But that about wraps up our conversation on our team process for building out this app.
Awesome. So the app is live at DebateMeBro.verso.app. Yeah, feel free to try it out and pick a topic you care about and see what happens when AI is forced to argue in good faith. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.